And now, from the Room 111 studios, it's Hacking Engagement with James Sternovic.
Well, hey there, listener, and welcome back to the Hacking Engagement Podcast. I'm so glad you're here. Now tell me this hasn't happened to you. Man, your students are just starting to open up in a discussion. They're finding great resources for a research paper. They're finally starting to harmonize in choir. Their sculptures are just beginning to take shape. Their findings in the science experiment are just about to materialize, and then the period is over and the bell rings. Well, this frequently happens to a good buddy of mine. Her name is Melissa Maxson, and she teaches right downstairs from me. And if you walk into Melissa's class right before the bell rings, our kids are deeply in the creative process. The bell rings, and invariably you'll hear the following. Man, I can't believe the period is over. Well, Melissa deals with this frustration on a daily basis, so she became determined to find a solution to these frustrations. Her frustrations with the uniform 50-minute time period. And you need to listen to this amazing episode where she talks about how she is going to detonate the limitations of space and time. Buckle up, man. You're going to love this episode. Hey, so get this, listener. My publisher contacts me and says, I love the way Hacking Engagement is selling. How about doing 50 more? I was all over it like a cheap suit. So the name of the book is Hacking Engagement Again, 50 Teacher Tools That Will Make Students Love Your Class. And it's going to be available on Amazon's virtual shelves in the late summer of 2017. In the meantime, if you're looking for more teacher empowerment resources, as always, visit hacklearning.org. Now let's get back to the solutions part of the Hacking Engagement Podcast. So here we are at the Room 111 studios, and sometimes I go across the country to talk to people, but why do I do that when I can just walk down the hall and talk to an amazing educator who's had both of my offspring, and they just loved her. She's sitting right beside me. Her name's Melissa Maxson.
Hello.
Hey, we got through Monday, and we're sitting in kind of a darkened room because we're really bummed out because we're in the midst of the eclipse, but it's cloudy here in Ohio.
So cloudy.
So it just kind of looks like it's going to rain or something.
Yeah.
It's very anticlimactic, at least here in Ohio. But we're not here to talk about the eclipse. I'll tell you what. I was writing this book last year, Hacking Engagement Again, and I knew I had to talk to Melissa Maxson because she's such a good teacher. She's so engaging, and she's going to talk today about rebelling against something. I mean, you probably have a rebellious streak in you, don't you?
Oh, yeah. Not so much anymore.
No, it fades. And we're going to rebel against the bell.
Rebel the bell.
That's right, man. So the reason why this all came up is I walk by Melissa's classroom a lot of times to go to my car to get out of here. And she's got tons of kids sitting in the room, and they're doing really neat things. So I started asking her, what's going on? And it turns out that the space-time constraints of the class period don't mean much to you, do they?
No, they don't.
So let's talk about this very intense frustration you have with the 50-minute class period.
All right. So, I teach 9 through 12 art. So you're, all kinds of drawing classes, photography classes. The problem that I'm noticing, that's a real hindrance is that this 50-minute period comes and goes quicker than I'm even prepared for. And by the time we get unloaded with our supplies, by the time the creative process starts, we have to clean up, and it's the end of the period. And time and time again, I get kids who complain about not being able to fulfill what they're trying to do because they're cut off by the bell. So it's frustrating.
So you just get the pump primed.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, it's empty.
It's empty.
Or short-circuited somehow.
Right. It's frustrating. It's terribly frustrating.
Well, I love to create. I love to draw. I love to build. And when I'm in that zone, I can look up and be amazed that 3 hours have just evaporated.
Oh, yeah.
So here you are, you finally get these 16, 17-year-old kids doing something incredibly constructive. And then you have to look at them and say, oh, Now you have to go to Sturman's history class.
Yeah, 5 minutes, time's up. Yep.
And it really talks about the way we do education in this country, which is like this industrial model. Mm-hmm. It's an assembly line. It's like herding cattle.
Yeah.
And when I think of herding cattle, I don't think of creativity.
Right. Well, yeah, because you're constrained, so it ties you down a little bit.
Okay, so you have this frustration. Mm-hmm. So there had to be this evolution of this idea. Where'd the genesis of this idea of an after-school club come from? Well,
it originally got its start. First of all, I got to admit, it turned into a greater thing than I ever thought. Mm-hmm. It originally got its start because of a student who was looking to just further her time with art. She was actually looking to seek some scholarships based on being a part of an art-based club, a National Art Honor Society club. And we found that there was a lot of feedback from the students that they enjoyed being a part of a group that was mm-hmm. using art in the community, in our school. It's a blank canvas. So we were looking at things like what we could paint, how we could improve quality of aesthetics in different rooms, and it turned into this gigantic club that hosts 9th through 12th graders. We peak out at I had to stop kids last year, actually. At 92 kids, I was like, I can't do any more because there's so many kids who want to be a part of it. And we just use art as a vehicle in our school or in our community to give kids a chance.
Now, we have about 1,000 kids in our high school. So you have roughly 10% of our student population.
10% in my teeny closet of a room, yes.
In your club?
Yes.
Do you have that many kids in your class?
No.
So this was just this idea that just mushroomed, and this kid inspired it.
Yes. Sure. It's just more than I ever imagined. It started off small, and it's gotten to be such a grand project that I'm really thankful for it. It's really fun.
Sometimes as a teacher, the idea of spending time doing more after the final bell rings is not necessarily, a lot of times I'll collapse on the floor after 8th period.
Yeah.
How do you push through that part of it?
I have no idea. I don't know.
Because sometimes you're like thinking, oh, geez, do I really want to do this? But it's a good thing.
It's a great thing. Yeah. I get past the 90 kids all with BO smashed into my room, and there's something really special about this club. Sincerely, there's something special about this club that makes me want to keep doing it because the kids love being a part of it. Mm-hmm.
And it's not just for talented artistic students.
Right. Not
Explain
even close.
That.
Well, yeah. So the thing that's kind of nice about the club is that even though, of the 90 kids who are in there, even though half of them may be mega artistic, super mm-hmm. talented, the kids who are not, that I encourage just as much to be a part of the program, can serve roles of leadership where mm-hmm. perhaps they're helping assist other kids or delegating responsibilities, to groups.
Artists need that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because there can only be so many chefs in the kitchen.
Yeah, that's right.
At a point, somebody's got to step back and things need to be done. So mm-hmm. it's nice that even the person who isn't as creative still has a role.
Okay. So now tell me about some of the things you've done.
So some of the things that we've worked on this year, well, not just this year in particular, but mm-hmm. in the past have been, I guess they did some kind of study about art in restrooms and kids being mm-hmm. less likely to vandalize them.
Yeah.
So not that we had a huge issue with that, because that's not the case, but our principal at the time wanted to see that. So we've painted restrooms on different floors of the building that correlate to the subjects taught there, which is cool.
Love going to the restroom in this building. It's a blast, man. We have beautiful restrooms.
We do ceiling tiles. I give the senior kids a ceiling tile down the middle of the hallway, so they get to leave their mark. Time out.
I'm going to stop you right there. The day that Miss Maxson's club, what's the name of your club?
We call it Art Honor Society.
Well, that's really, I was hoping for something a little more creative.
Super duper Art Club Extreme.
So the day that they install these murals. No.
Ceiling tiles.
Painted ceiling tiles. It was hilarious to watch kids walk down the hall, look up,
yeah,
bump into each other. And it was pretty hard for them to get to and mess up.
Yeah.
That's one great thing about the ceiling tiles. It's hard for them to to mess with it.
Yeah, I actually did. That was really funny.
That was awesome.
Kid just staring at the ceiling.
And listen, if you want a picture, I'll put it on the show notes. I have a little collage of the ceiling tiles that Miss Maxson's class did. It's awesome, man.
That's cool. Yeah, so we've done the ceiling tiles, the bathrooms. We painted an entire, basically, parking lot area. It's the blacktop, so it's not a parking space area, but the blacktop with educational games.
Have you been able to migrate some of these activities into your regular class period, or is that a no-no?
It's not a no-no, but, I try to keep the club activities and the classroom stuff separate just because the club stuff could consume our entire time. I mean, we spend, when we did our project over at Harrison Street working on the educational games for the blacktop, we spent months, I'm not even exaggerating, it was probably 2.5, 3 months easily planning out where all these parts are going to go. And I mean, we could lose time in class every day just milling over all the details for that. So yes, we do spend some time, but it's definitely not the focus. Class is still class, but
Right. So I'm going to ask you to think of 2 examples.
Okay.
So this student came to you with this idea.
Mm-hmm.
You were just kind of minding your own business.
Yeah.
Then bam, you've got this monster of a club.
Right.
But this club's impacted people. Talk about 2 kids that you were just like, dang, man, look what this did for them. And this wouldn't have happened unless this young lady made this suggestion.
Okay, well, this is super easy because there are 2 kids I'm thinking of in particular.
Mm-hmm.
One kid was not art related, didn't have a real strong build on any certain type of drawing. He just didn't have like the real skills that a artist would really have. Right. And he asked me about joining the club and was really concerned about his lack of skills, like day one concern. And he, at our Harrison Street project where we painted outside, served a greater role than the kids who were putting paint on the ground because he was a leader and was helping out in so many ways.
Just whip those artists into shape.
Yeah, he had it together. He was really good about, cleaning brushes, picking up trash. And, you may say to yourself, well, that's not what the purpose of the club is. Yeah, maybe you're right. But the way I look at it is that kid who wanted to be a part of something was. And it was important. And then on the flip side, another girl I can think of really took off, in a leadership role with painting. I found her constantly diving into projects head first, and she knew my mindset of what I wanted and expected for the project and took her leadership skills to different paintings kids were doing and said, well, why don't you try it this way, or why don't you do this? And just watching a shy girl, which I forgot to mention that part, a shy girl come out of her shell by the end of the project was awesome.
Okay, I'm going to make 2 predictions. And this is on how it impacted you.
Okay.
I'll bet you build some relationships with kids that wouldn't have been there.
Absolutely, not even a question. Absolutely.
And I bet you came up with great ideas for class.
There's definitely connections to it for sure. Absolutely.
Now here's the challenging part. This is where you're really going to have to get creative. I can hear someone thinking, well, that's easy to do in an art class.
Yeah, right.
So what would be a piece of advice for maybe a non-art teacher on how to get this started?
There is nothing in your course that is not adaptable to some type of club-based activity, whether it produces a product like an art piece or not. We have a teacher here at the high school who was using math, a lot of equations to generate art, beautiful like vector stuff, and these sweet designs that are created from number arranging. And I think that that's amazing. You could do that in any class. If you think about some type of goal you seek for the class, there's no reason a history class or an English class couldn't come up with some type of end product that was created based on the content of that subject.
And probably younger kids, like elementary kids, would even be more enthusiastic.
Yeah, I bet you would.
And so she just gave you an example of a math teacher who created a math club that was extremely creative. So don't tell me that you can't do it.
Yeah.
Hey, Melissa, love you. You're a great teacher. You're one of my mentors.
Thanks, man.
Hang in there.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for stopping up.
Anytime.
So here we are at the What You Can Do Tomorrow section, and today's version of the What You Can Do Tomorrow section is simple but profoundly challenging. As Melissa promotes in the episode, you need to try to figure out a way that you can create an after-school club, doesn't have to meet all the time, maybe once a month, once a week, that can take some of your excellent material that you promote in class, allow kids to go deeper, and enrich the school in the process. And while this process unfolds, you're going to create deeper relationships with those kids. They're going to create deeper relationships with each other. It's going to be a profoundly positive experience for all concerned. Next, you want to investigate a project opportunity, something that's going to better your school community, something that will publicize your club, something that will give the club members a great sense of pride. Don't be limited by the traditional 50-minute class period. Create an after-school club where students can engage in the material and engage in a larger community. And good luck tomorrow engaging your students.
Show notes for this episode can be found at jamesalansturdivant.com. If you enjoy Hacking Engagement, please subscribe, rate, and review us on iTunes.